Okay, everybody, episode 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the Image of God presentation. And just kind of going back to episode 4, so I humored myself, not me, open up this. I know I mentioned in episode 4 to watch this video right here, and it was published July 26th, 2020. And here's the web address right there. So I tried searching it, couldn't find it. So I actually just typed in the entire address right there. And here's what I found. Let me see if this works here. Let me go click this and share this with you. This is what we got. This video has been removed for violating YouTube community guidelines. And this really chaps me, because that 5-minute bit in that sermon from that man of God, Preacher Lawson, was the truth. And it was the truth relevant to the time, and it's probably even more relevant now. And when the devil censors and stomps out the truth, it's so angering and irritating. It's like, is there no justice? Because the truth is being caged, right? And lies are running wild. And YouTube's going to have to answer to that. That woman, Susan Wojcicki, however you say her last name, Susan. We'll just call her YouTube Susan. She's going to have to answer for this. She is. Like, my audience, it's not my audience, it's God's audience. Right? Hey, the 4 people that's going to watch this video, or episode 4 really, they're being withheld, defrauded. And this really, it doesn't sit well with me, but it's okay. They're, in the end, the justice will be served. It will be. So I'm going to go back to the presentation here. Okay, let's go. Where's my mouse? Oh, I lost my mouse. No, hold on, everybody. There we go. Okay. So moving right along. I'm sorry, because this was a great sermon. It was really good. Okay. The Image of God, episode 5. Here we go. All right. King Nebuchadnezzar. Who remembers the book of Daniel? Because this is what we're getting at. The book of Daniel. History, a little bit of history. King Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon. Let's get into it. All right, Daniel chapter 3. Oh, such a good chapter. Okay, Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image, there's that word again, an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, that's 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs. Ancient had sheriffs back then. Nothing's changed, people. Nothing's changed. And we'll see that theme. And the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. The governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers. Sounds like a bunch of political people. Judges, political, captains, that's the military, governors, definitely political, the counselors, sheriffs. A lot of people don't know this. There's only one sheriff, everyone else is a deputy. And the sheriff is elected. The sheriff is an elected position. Now, the chief of police, that's you work yourself up to that, but there's only one sheriff, and they're over the county, right? The county's over multiple cities. But they don't teach that these days. They don't teach that these days. get in trouble, you'll find out quick. You'll be able to judge. That's the real power of society. It's not the police, people. When you get pulled over, that's not the fight, right? When the police officer is right in your face, that's on the street, that's not the fight. The real fight is in the courtroom. And the judge has the power, right? The judge, because you can be prosecuted, every which way from Sunday up and down till the cows come home. Charges can be brought against you. It's the judge that you need to worry about. The judge and the jury, really, right? Something to think about. They don't teach you that in school, though. They don't. They try to teach you that the real fight is in the street. So you make a big scene, you waive your rights that you don't realize that you have, and you do things that make you look bad. So when the real fight shows up, you already lost, right? But that's besides. This is relevant to the image right here. It is. So you got the king. He sets up this golden image unto himself, and he brings everybody in, all the political elite, right? Hey, we're going to dedicate this image to me because I'm somebody important. Here's something. I don't care who you are. Everyone puts on their pants just like the rest of us, one leg at a time. Nope. Like, you are not God. You're just another man. And the only authority you have is what God has given you. Then the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And I think this picture, which you can just Google search, you can just find it online, right? Right click, copy paste. Look at this, that's pretty good, right? You got all the people, all the important people. Hey, look at this image, right? Let's stand before it. Then a herald cried aloud, to you it is commanded, right? And like that big, the scroll. It is, to you it is commanded, to you the little people it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that when you hear the sound of the cornet, the cornet, the harp, the cornet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, the dulcimer, I think that's the dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. So it's like when you hear all this, offbeat music, I can imagine this, and it's just like, it's so not on, not in key. And I'm no music guy, as there's music behind me. Trust me, I'm no music guy, right? But I'm just imagining that sounding horrible, right? Just like, no. But as soon as you hear all that music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king hath set up. Ye will not only, worship, grovel to it, praise it, worship it, right? What was the commandment? What did God command us to do? Ye shall not have any graven images or worship. You shall not worship any graven images or bow thyself down to them that is in heaven above, earth below, or anything beneath the sea. All right. But the king or the president is giving this command. What did Peter tell the Pharisees? Should we worship you, or should we listen to you, or should we listen to God? Right? Who do we listen to? And that's where our faith comes in. You're going to bow down to the state? Are you? Over this image? You want to break God's law? I'm more concerned, it's easy to say here from the comfort of my little space right here, my safe space. It's easier, to please God than please man, but it's like we as Christians need to be aware of things like this, right? It's like, well, I'll just bow down and not mean it. Oh no, you bow down. You bow down to it. Right? And whoso falleth not down and worship shall the same hour be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. So it's like, hey, you're all gonna bow down and worship. And if you don't bow down and worship, death, basically. And not just death. I venture to say, as time has gone on, since the time of Jesus, the death penalty has gotten less grisly, less cruel. It's, a lot of people don't know this, but there's 5 legal executions in America. Does anyone know what they are? I wish this was more interactive. I really do. But we got firing squad, that is legal form of execution, electric chair, the gas chamber, hanging, and lethal injection. 5 legal methods of execution in America. Right? I'd say those are pretty tame compared to being cast alive into a burning fire. But it's interesting that that's the punishment if you do not worship this image, is you will be thrown into a fiery furnace. If you do not worship this. What does Revelation say? What happens if you do worship the image? You will be. These are the things as Christians we need to be aware of. The Bible tells us, we just need to be aware of this. Keep an eye on them. Okay. And whoso falls not down in worship shall the same hour be cast in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, and all kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and the languages fell down and worshiped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Almost, and it's interesting that nothing has changed, because what happened right here thousands of years ago in Babylon's era, in the time of Babylon, thousands of years ago, Revelation says the same thing is going to happen again. The same thing. And all the people, they fell down and worshiped. All the people fell down and worshiped. And that was verse, that was verse 6 and 7. Verse 8, wherefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, and the dulcimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worship, he shall be cast in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews who hast stepped over the affairs. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. So, just to paraphrase here, so all the music's going on, everyone's bowing down and worshiping, except for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? Hananiah, Mishael, and Daniel. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. I want to say Azariah. I think those are their real names, right? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are pagan names. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. I think. So you got these Chaldeans. I'm sure they're like, taskmasters, if you will. They're snitches, if you will. And they see that they're not bowing down. And it's like, so they go, I'm sure they approach them like, hey, y'all need to bow down. And they're like, yeah, no, we're not bowing down. All right. And so they got their names, right? Or maybe they just knew who they were because they were, set over affairs of the province. So maybe they just knew them by face, right? It's like, hey. So they went and told the king, like, oh, king, you made this decree that if someone doesn't worship, they need to go to the fire, right? And so they told the king, like, oh, these three that you set over, your affairs, they're not worshiping. That's what's going on. Which snitches, some Nazi spying on your neighbor type stuff is what's going on here. It's coming. It was then, it was in the 40s, and it's coming again. It's coming again. Let me see this. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. The king was angry. The king was, what do you mean someone's not going to worship me? How dare they, right? Do they not know who I am? I am the king. No. So he was rage and fear. What do you do when you're like, it's one thing to be angry, right? Like you get done over at the auto shop, you're not happy, right? But rage and fear, that's when you start acting irrationally and start breaking stuff. Rage and fury. You start doing things that you'll regret later. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said to them, is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do ye not serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, the dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if you worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And here's what Nebuchadnezzar says to these three, and you can see the picture. And this is a great picture. You can see the image in the background, and you got these three right here, and then obviously you got some police officers. They're the little leg breakers, right? They're the ones with the real power. That they are. But anyhow, in this situation, and who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Like, do you not know the power and authority I have over you? It's like, you need to fear me or I will kill you. Worst they can do is kill you, right? And that's the attitude we as Christians need to have. The worst they can do is kill us. I mean, if you are a real Christian, you're not going to fear death. You're not going to fear, because you have faith. You believe that what's hereafter is going to be so much better, right? So it's like, if this tyrant king is going to threaten you with death for not worshiping his tyranny, praise be to God. Praise be to God. And who is it that God should not deliver you at? Who is that God? Who is that God? Not God, that God. What God is strong enough to deliver you out of my hand? Some proud, haughty words from the king lets you know where his heart's at. And Jesus tells us in Matthew 10, 28 through 31, and fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both the soul and body in hell. Are not two sparrows sold for a farthing, and one of them shall not fall into the ground without your Father? But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear ye not, therefore, ye are of more value than many sparrows. Right? Jesus knows. Jesus knows we have value right there. And don't fear man. Don't fear them which kill the body and but unable to kill the soul. Fear God. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, move me right here. We are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. And what does Satan say? Skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath will he give for his life. That's a lie. That is a lie, right? It's like my life. I mean, I love life, right? I love life is good, right? But it's not that so great that I'm willing to just sacrifice everything to preserve it. Like, I mean, it's good here, but it's not. And I tap upon this in another presentation, but odds are stacked against us, right? Like, there's nothing in this life on this earth that it's that good worth sacrificing Jesus over. Jesus is not worth sacrificing, or let me rephrase that. There's nothing good enough worth trading Jesus for in this life. Yeah, that works. But and I like how you got, just kind of sitting there, and it's just like, yeah, and it's like, yeah, whatever, king, like our God can save us, but if he doesn't, oh well. But you will know, be it known, king, that we're not, like, you can throw us in the fire, but we're not giving you the satisfaction. We are not going to serve your gods and worship them for our life. We're not. And you can see Nebuchadnezzar all angry and fiery. Chapter 8 or verse 18. Okay, 19. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury. He was angry. He was so angry. He was so angry. You know why? Because he's on a power trip. Like, they basically hurt his ego. His ego was this big, his head. And they were like, no, you ain't nobody to us, right? And he was angry. He was angry, full of fury. And the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. So he's like, Nebuchadnezzar was like, you get that fire hot. He wanted an oxyacetylene torch in that fire. And I love this verse right here. I love it because the Bible doesn't lie. Nothing has changed, people. And he commanded the most mighty men, the strongest men, the most intimidating dudes that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Why didn't the king do it? It's never the king that does it. And let me go, who remembers in January, February 2022, maybe even March, there was a bunch of truck drivers were in Canada, and they had a message for the king of Canada. They had a message, and Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, he wanted the truck drivers to go away, and so he told them, you know, he gets in front of his podium, in front of the camera, and says, "Hey, y'all need to go home. Y'all need to go home. I hear the horns honking. Go home." They weren't going home, right? So what is Trudeau? Does Trudeau come out there and tell them, "I am the king. I am the prime minister. You will listen to me"? No, no, because they're not going to listen to him, right? So what did he do? How did the convoy eventually just kind of go away? The police, the real leg breakers, right? He got the leg breakers. Nothing's changed. He commands the most mighty. He didn't just, hey, you know, whoever. No, he got the strongest men that were in his army. And then the sad part is they follow orders because it's like, oh, I'm doing the king's bidding. They're going to make sure they see my little name tag, and he'll remember me, and I might get promoted or be honored for doing the king's bidding, for being a good little servant. And he commanded those mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the fiery furnace. Then these men were, let's see, in his army, right? I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here. We all know who this guy, another political parasite. Greed, guns, and prison are what's wrong with America. Now give me 90% of your income, or I'll send men with guns after you and put you in prison. Nothing has changed. Greed, guns, and prison are what's wrong with America. Now give me all your money, right? Give me all your money, or I'll send men with guns to put you in prison. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And it's like, I'll send men with guns after you. It's like, I want this. If you don't give me this, I'll send bigger, stronger men, more of them, after you. It's like, why don't you, Sanders, Colonel Sanders, why don't you come take my money? You come get my guns. Come, you do it. No, they don't do it. They don't, nothing. King Nebuchadnezzar didn't throw them in the fire. Sanders isn't going to be the one taking your guns or your money, right? They always get the leg breakers to do it. They always get the leg breakers to do it. America. Okay, I'm jumping the gun here. Okay, let's go back. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. So as they were dressed up, whatever they were wearing, they were bound up and they were cast into the fiery furnace. Therefore, because of the king's command was urgent and the furnace was exceeding hot, the flames of the fire slew the men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Praise the Lord. God works in mysterious ways, right? Yes. Like the men, like God, that's the hand of God working right there, right? Finally, some justice. And if you go back to Exodus, I should have made a link or a slide. In Exodus, when Pharaoh, nothing's changed. What did Pharaoh do to the Israelites? He said, if you know, he told the Egyptian midwives, if the Israelites have a child and it's a boy, throw it in the river. Oops, hold on here. There we go. Just want to make. I don't know if the speaker stops and the lights go out. That's my cue to know that the speaker's working. But Pharaoh told the Egyptian midwives in Exodus chapter 2, Exodus 1 or Exodus 2, it's in there. You can humor yourself. But he told the midwives, if it's a son, throw him in the river, and if it's a girl, you can save her alive, right? And what did the midwives do? They didn't listen to Pharaoh, right? They didn't listen to the king. And so Pharaoh found out, but God knows what happens, right? Nothing is secret. The Lord knows everything. And so, and the Bible tells us, because of those women, the midwives, that did what was right in God's eyes, they got houses built for them. They were honored. They were honored and lifted up by God. And these men that bound Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? What happened to them? The Lord burned, right? The Lord burned them up. The fire slew those men which took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Praise the Lord. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And then this one right here. Nothing's changed. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished and rose up in haste and spake and said unto his counselors, did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, true, O, it's like, yes. Bunch of yes. Yes, O king, true, O king. He answered and said, lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. And it's like, Interesting how the Bible tells us that in verse 25. Daniel 3, verse 25. The form of the 4th is like the Son of God. It's like, is that your God, Nebuchadnezzar? How do you know that? Because we know truth when we see it. We know truth when we hear it. Jesus is the truth. Nebuchadnezzar knew. Nebuchadnezzar knew. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake and said, he calls unto Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth in the midst of the fire. And the princes, the governors, the captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was an hair of their head singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Now, if that's not preaching right there, when we go, think about Judgment Day, people. Everything in the Bible is deliverance. And this is a foreshadow of what's coming, right? He that hath the Son hath life. He that hath not the Son hath not life. When Judgment Day comes and we have the Son, when we're with Jesus, the fire had no power, upon whose bodies the fire had no power. That's right there. The fire had no power. And for us Christians, for the remnant, for those that have the Son, that's what the fire is not going to have any power. Not even the smell of smoke came upon them. And Isaiah told us in chapter 43, verse 1 through 3, but now, thus saith the Lord, thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. God knows your name. You're his. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. The Red Sea. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. For I am the Lord thy God, the Holy One of Israel, thy Savior. I gave Egypt for thy ransom, Ethiopia and Seba for thee. When thou shalt walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. God knew this was coming. God knew this was coming. And he sent Isaiah to say this, to write it down. And it's an encouragement and a hope for us. It is. Look at that. That's what the captains, the judges, the counselors, the sheriffs, all the important people looking around. That's what they saw. That's what they saw. This blaze of fire. And they see the three of them, just four, walking around. Like, praise the Lord. Like the faith that they had. Like, the Lord can save us. But if he doesn't, it is well. Right? It is well. It's faith and encouragement over an image that they refuse to worship. It's gonna be okay. If you refuse to worship the image, it's gonna be okay, people. Like, let this word not return unto the Lord void, right? Do not worship the image. It's gonna be okay. Have faith. And wrapping up here. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and hath changed the king's word and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve or worship any God except their own God. Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, language, which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut into pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. And isn't that funny? Like I was saying earlier, you got the mighty men that were quick to respond to the king, right? Like the king says, hey, bind these men up and throw them in the fire to kill them, right? And they were quick to do it. They were happy to do it because they thought they were going to get promoted. They got their reward in full, right? And then paralleling this, because it's all in the Bible, people. It's all in the Bible if we just read it. Saul in 1 Samuel, when he was pursuing after David, he had, he started with a name, he started with a D. I want to say Diego. It was Diego. Oh, it escapes me. Anyway, the king goes to the Saul, first king of Israel, goes to the priests, and says, "Hey, was David was here. You didn't tell me that he was here. I'm going to kill you," right? And so does Saul go kill the priests? No, he doesn't. What does he do? He tells his mighty men, go kill the priest. And and Saul's mighty men was like, no, we're not going to do it. But then there was a guy, give me 5 seconds here. I'm not trying to, I got it. Because I was just reading this. It'd take me a minute to find it. But the mighty men, Saul's mighty men were like, no, we're not gonna. I think the Bible uses the word come against or fall upon the priests. Like, no, we're not going to kill the priest of the Lord, right? And it's not like Saul killed them. It's right. You are the mighty men. You are the leg breakers. Who breaks the legs of the leg breakers? Nobody. Nobody breaks the leg of the leg breakers, right? The king ain't gonna do it. Colonel Sanders, and old feeble Colonel, communist Colonel Sanders, he's not breaking no one's leg. Right? So they got promoted. Now, yeah. Now take that story and fast forward about 2,000 years or so, I think, however long it was. Germany circa 1940. What's changed? What has changed? We have an image. There's a symbol. Instead of a statue, right? It was a symbol, right? A very distinct symbol. And the masses, they worshipped it. They did. Because if they didn't, there were consequences, right? There were consequences for not worshiping the image, right? And everybody had their little salute. We'll call it a salute, except for this guy right here. I wish I put a little animation on that one, see if you can find him. But he was just like, and you can just see the look on his face, like, I don't know about this. I don't know about that. I don't know, like, no. Be that guy. Be that guy. Like, no, right? I think there's a quote, if I can remember correctly. When the masses are running full sprint off a cliff, right? They're running to the edge of a cliff to fall over to their demise, to their death, and you're running the opposite direction as fast as you can. Everyone thinks you're the crazy one. Who's the crazy one? Like, you got the herd mentality running off the cliff. You got the one guy who's going the opposite direction, and they all think he's crazy. Nope. All right. Nebuchadnezzar was a type of Antichrist who would have killed by throwing into the fire any who would not worship him, his gods, or his image. Right? And Matthew 10, verse 38 to 39 says, and he that taketh not his cross and followeth not after me is not worthy of me. But he that findeth his life shall lose it. And he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. For my sake, for the sake of Jesus, for the cause of Christ. If you're to lose your life for the cause of Christ, you will find it. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had no fear and were ready to give up their lives for the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Israel, or Jacob. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Israel. They had no fear because they believed. They had that faith that we're commanded to have. This is the faith Jesus speaks of in Matthew 10. This is the faith that Jesus speaks of and wants us to have in our lives. This is the faith Jesus. And when you have faith like this, life is good. Like you can take on life because you have faith. This isn't a script from a movie or novel in the fiction section of Barnes and Noble. This is real. There was 3 men. They were in a situation where their lives were in peril, and they overcame. Right? These were real people. This is real. These are 3 real men that basically said, we're not playing your game. We're not playing your game. We're not afraid of you, and we don't care about preserving our lives because there's nothing here worth anything, right? The question is now, how many worshiped because they were afraid of the punishment or consequences of not bowing down? Who were afraid of the consequences? And it's like, and I'm just going to put it out there, right? It's like, how many people didn't want to lose their job and did things within the last 2 years that they probably didn't want to do, but did anyway? because they're afraid of losing their job. And what happens when you lose your job? You're probably going to lose your house. Well, I mean, that's kind of an extreme example right there, right? But that's the first step. It's a slippery slope, right? Follow the money, right? How many people wanted to please, they just wanted to go along to get along out of cowardice. And they took something that they may not have wanted to within the last 2 years because they wanted to preserve what they had. I'm just putting it out there. All right. How many didn't do that? Anyway, but nothing's changed. And this is a pre-runner to what's going to happen in the future. It is. And there's no doubt in my mind that Satan was there somewhere during that transaction of those three getting thrown in the fire. Satan was lurking nearby. All right. We'll take a break right here. This is episode 5, I believe. Hope you all got something out of this. I know I did. This is good stuff right here. This is preaching right here. Now, I wish it was more interactive. I really wish it was more interactive. It'd be so much better. I need to figure out how to make it more, like get more people on there. I will figure that out, and we'll do more presentations, and we'll have a good time with it. Okay. God bless. This is episode 5. We'll stop it right here, and then right after this, I'll start doing episode 6, just so we can get it posted and y'all can enjoy. All right. Let's end this meeting for all.